All right. We did it. We were recording. All right, Shawn, just like usual, please introduce yourself and then we'll get to it.
All right. Hey, I'm Shawn Sullivan. I live in Seattle and I play old school Magic, and I think we're here to talk about a deck that I played.
Yep. It is in essence what I missed talking about red green with Cam and a couple other people is that there's a third option, which is red green combo decks, I guess is what I would call this, with Mana Flare. So I had to get you on because this is all I really want to talk about is red green for the foreseeable future. And of course, I brought my questions and minimized them so nobody can see them. So, so what inspired you to build this specific deck? Like, why build this?
Yeah, so this was actually like something that was one of the first old school decks that I like put together. Like my very first deck was like a blue, red, black, like Sedge Trolls and Serendib Efreet and Power and Lightning Bolts and like that deck, like a good deck with good cards in it. But like that's also not always the most fun thing to play. And like I'm at heart, part of me is a Timmy, and I just want to cast like big spells and Shivan Dragons and Forces of Nature and just like have the biggest, best guys. And so that was kind of the idea behind this deck was like, let's just play a big mana deck and put in all the best stuff that's good if you're trying to play big mana. And so it's kind of like at its core, it's a Mana Flare deck. And then it's just like, okay, in red green, what are the best things to be doing, assuming you're going to Mana Flare? So, okay. Yeah.
I should have probably mentioned to people who are going to listen to this that this is a red-green Mana Flare deck with a bunch of Shivans, Ernies, two Force of Natures, some Force. We'll get to the rest of the deck, but you can probably imagine what it is from there for those who are just listening. But man, how has this deck evolved since your first build? Like, I'm assuming there was a build one, and then it has moved forward.
Yeah, so build one was it was red-green, so it's always been like red-green, but it started with I had some elves, like Llanowar elves in there. I had lightning bolts in there. There was, I think I tried fast bond at one point. Okay. And kind of iterating the early iterations, what I found was like with Llanowar elves and, and lightning bolt and stuff, it's just kind of not what you want to be doing if you're like the big mana deck. They're great early in the game, but later on you would just have almost literally anything else from your deck. Fast bond, I love fast bond. It's like one of my favorite cards. It's good. It's good in this deck sometimes. If you get to wheel, obviously fast bond is really good. You are playing some Howling Minds in this deck, so you have chances to draw more mana. And just because it's a Mana Flare deck, if you can ramp out an extra 3 lands, you turn one, you go like Forest, fast bond, land, go, and then play Mana Flare on turn 2, and then turn 3, you're up 6 mana, 8 mana, something like that. Then you're on. It's go time. But you kind of, I think fast bond could become a consideration again if you were to like go into blue, play some of the blue power, but then you're playing blue power, and that's not the point of this deck. So.
Yeah. I mean, but that really leads into the next question, which was like you kind of already talked about it, but like eschews format staples such as like lightning bolts, shatters, or more notably the blue splash for the usual suspects there, which I think is. I mean, you explained your choices on it, so it's not like we need to go further into it. But did you build a sideboard for this deck, or was this just a like a 60 card tournament?
Yeah, sure. So this deck was originally conceived as just like a meetups deck. And so it just didn't have a sideboard. I don't always build a sideboard when I'm building a deck just to bring the meetups. But I've also played this in events where I've had sideboards. And so sideboards usually will have things like Red Blast, Shatter, Tranquility, sometimes Avoid Fate. It just kind of depends what I'm feel like doing. I would say really Shatter is the main card that you want 4 of in the sideboard. And Red Blast, you probably want at least 2. And then after that, you can kind of go with what feels good. But you know, sometimes it's fun to put in like the flash fires or the tsunami or something like that and really hope to blow someone out. Um, but yeah, so the card choices are it's really like, kind of like I was alluding to before. It's, you know, your goal in this deck is to be doing the biggest thing, you know, casting the biggest spells. You have a lot of mana, but your opponent also has a lot of mana because of the mana flares, and so you don't want to draw lightning bolt. You know, you might have 8 or 10 mana. Lightning bolt's gonna let you use 1 of your mana to do 3 damage, which is efficient, which is, you know, cool and all, but like you'd much rather have a fireball, you know, and just be able to like, you know, 9 them to the head with your 10 mana.
Just be done with it.
Just be done with it. And so your opponent, meanwhile, like it's almost a form of card advantage when this is happening, because you're able to spend all of your mana with your X spells and your Shivan Dragons and your Forces of Nature, and your opponent is going to be drawing Lightning Bolt and Savannah Lion and, you know, like just stuff that's really efficient. But like if you double all of the mana in a game of Magic, suddenly these cards they're efficient, but they're also like, you know, little jabs while I'm over here throwing haymakers. So that's one of the theories of this deck, is that you're just going to play the biggest spells in the game. And that's also why you play Howling Mine, because Howling Mine is like, it's a bad card, like on its own. But like, I'm going to draw 2, they're going to draw 2, they're going to draw Lightning Bolt Savannah Lion, and I'm going to draw Shivan Dragon Fireball, or like Fork Fireball, or, you know, whatever. So like, I'm just drawing huge spells and they're drawing efficient stuff, but I'm just going to be I'm better. I'm using the cards and the mana that are available better than they are.
Love it.
Yeah.
What's the 61st card that's not included here? Like what did you want to include but didn't make the cut?
So I've played 61 here. This particular list is a 60 card list. And if the 61st card here in this list is Sword of the Ages. Okay. Even though this is a 60 card deck, like if I were to play 61, I'd probably add either like another Fork or a Disintegrate or another Earthquake, maybe a Force of Nature, something like that, like one of the big spells, and then Sword of the Ages is card number 61, and Sword of the Ages is just I call it, it's like a brown time walk in a deck like this almost. Because you're going to do stuff like have a Shivan Dragon and an Urnam Djinn on the board, and you're going to swing with them. And maybe you pump the Shivan once or twice, and then you just use the Sword of the Ages and throw them at your opponent's face, and then the game is over. So it is good for that kind of reach. And, you know, it's you know, getting your Shivan Dragon to sort of double activate with the +1/+0 ability is good. There's a Berserk. That's the card that's the red Incredible Hulk.
Yep.
That's Berserk. So you can Berserk your Shivan Dragon and throw it at their face, and that's also another way to do 20 damage. There's also a green Hulk to the other side of that, which is a giant growth. That's a pair that was done, I think, by Daniel Alschutz. I think, the Fireball guy.
Yep.
Anyway, so that's the Sword of the Ages is just like, it's a bad card, but it's a fun card. And it actually does work in a deck like this, just because even if you're just throwing one Force of Nature at them, like that's 16. If you attack, maybe they chump block with a Factory and pump it, and you hit them for 5, and then you throw the Force of Nature at their face for another 8. That's 13 damage. Sometimes you just do that, even if it's, you know, like maybe you've got a Fireball in your hand and then you burn them out, or maybe maybe that puts them low enough that, you know.
Yeah, puts them within strike.
Whatever. You put them within strike. Yeah. Right. So you do stuff like that in this deck, and those are fun cards to play, and people are often surprised. You don't see Sword of the Ages getting played on a table very often. So yeah.
No, and also like the channel as well. And the channel makes sense because you have so many X spells that it makes a whole lot of sense. Whereas like I think most people would argue that you wouldn't want to play channel in any other type of like green deck per se. Because it's not worth the top.
Yeah. I mean, channel I think in a deck like this is like medium. You do have all those X spells, and sometimes you do just channel over the top. You know, like maybe you can use your mana flare to get 6 mana out for a Fireball, and then you channel and you put another 8 into it and get them for enough or something like that. And you do sometimes you channel fireball people. Like I've channel fireballed people twice, I think, with this deck, and there's probably no better feeling in Magic. I mean, it's the classic combo, the first combo, you know. So that's always fun to pull off. But yeah.
And then what is your favorite card out of this deck if you only had to pick one? It doesn't matter why you pick it, just which one is your
Oh man.
favorite.
This is tough. I mean, there's the easy thing to say, like, well, the Black Lotus, you know, like that's the Grail card since we were kids. This one you can't really tell in the picture, but it's also signed by Chris Rush in silver. But I feel like I'm kind of an altars person. So, you know, there's a few. This deck doesn't have a ton of altars in it, but there's I think it's probably the Ric Flair Mana Flare, just because that's how I feel when I play this deck. That's an altar that Park Cofield did, and it's just Ric Flair saying "woo," and I just feel like, you know, you play a Mana Flare and it's like game on, woo. And then I've got a Ric Flair on the
one Force of Nature.
Force of Nature that I think Quail did.
That feels very Quail-ish to me. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then the other one that's there's a Shivan Dragon there. That was done by one of the Tennessee guys. I don't think is it Josh? It might have been Josh Bragoa.
Yeah, I can't make out the initials in the bottom left corner.
Yeah, but it's one of the. Sorry if I screwed that one up, but it's one of the Tennessee guys.
They're not listening. I wouldn't worry about it.
No one's listening. It's fine.
Yeah, nobody's listening.
So that one, and then I've mentioned the Berserk already.
Yeah, that Berserk is.
There's also
sick.
a mountain down in the bottom left. There's a mountain. That is, I think that was a Marta Molina altar. That's Gandalf going through Mines of Moria, and then on the bottom row, that's a Dustin Broussard City of Brass with the Egyptian Queen art on it. I think that rounds out the altars that are in this deck. But yeah,
those pretty sick altars. I know this mana base is built for 4-strip because we live on the West Coast. Anything particularly special about it? It looks pretty standard to me. I just figured I'd ask the question. No, I know that you're skewing factory here, which I should have probably mentioned in the usual suspects list. But anything else I missed on the mana base? I don't think so. But
no, it's a pretty straightforward mana base. You know, you're playing. This is 24 lands plus Lotus, the 2 on-color Moxen, and a Soul Ring. So it's you're playing a lot of big spells. You definitely want to stick your lands, and it is 4-strip, as you mentioned. But you have Mana Flares. Like, you don't want to play all the Moxen in this because you don't double their mana with Mana Flare, and so you do want to hit lands. That's also where that fastball intention. You know, that's like a card that, you know, it's just really close. It's fun, so I play it sometimes still. But yeah, so it's pretty standard mana base. Just stick your lands, hit every turn. You want to drop a land, you know, the first 4 or 5 turns in a row, so you play enough lands to have a good shot at doing that.
Nice. Have you played this deck just in meetups, or have you played it at any tournaments? How did it do? All that type of stuff.
Yeah, I've played it in tournaments too. So I played a variant of it. It was pretty close. Maybe 1 or 2 cards different type of thing. At an event in Portland a couple years ago. That was I don't remember how I did. It was like a 3-and-3 day or something like that.
Feels pretty good. This feels like a 3. Yeah.
3-and-3.
Like
you get lucky, you go 4-and-2. You get lucky, you go 2-and-4. That kind of day, which is about what I expect with something like this. And then I played it in an online tournament back during COVID. I don't remember which one it was because the world was a disaster. But you know, it was one of those. It was another. I think like one of Cam's tournaments, like a Cam Fest type of event. And I do remember channel fireballing somebody during that event.
That's all that matters.
That's all that matters. Feeling. Yep. Cheese them out. But yeah.
If you were going to modify this for like a one strip formats, say, I don't know, I guess like Atlantic or Swedish, besides obviously dropping the strip mines, anything else that you think you would change?
I think if you were doing, I think you'd cut the 3 strip mines, and then I think after that it's pretty straightforward. Like you still want lots of lands.
Right.
So I'd probably put in the Library of Alexandria at that point because you can kind of fit it, and this deck does want a lot of colored mana because you're playing Shivan Dragon, and like a very common thing to want to do in this deck is to just Shivan up to 10 power and Berserk, or Sword of the Ages. So I think that's one, and then I think I'd probably just put in another mountain and another forest, and then still keep 24 lands. Or maybe just add one land and be able to squeeze in like one Shatter Main, or like the next Disintegrate, or the next Force Nature. So something like that. It's pretty close though. It's not.
Right.
I wouldn't. It's almost a combo deck, so you don't really, other than making sure you have enough lands, you don't really want to change it too much, just based on the number of strip mines.
Nice.
So,
okay. Mm-hmm. And then this is probably my new favorite question to ask, but if you could replace one card from any card in Magic's entire history, what would it be? Like if you could just pull not like Voltaic is a terrible example because it probably wouldn't work well in this deck, but like any card to put in
this deck. Oh yeah. Man. Well, boy. There's so many good cards that are in like modern Magic. Like there's probably some creature like Ragavan is probably a great, even though he's only like a 1 mana thing and you can dash him out, but like he ramps you. I forget exactly how, if you get lands or treasure tokens or some.
I think it's treasure tokens. That's like as I was getting out of like regular Magic, that card was around. I think it's treasure tokens.
I mean, maybe he doesn't do quite enough then. There's probably some Planeswalker, like I imagine there's some Chandra that gives you some sort of emblem that does something. Maybe like Furnace of Wrath would be fun in this deck, which is the card that doubles all damage, just because that's already what you're trying to do. Right. It's almost like a Mana Flare. And then, of course, there's another one that is not in this deck that often goes with Mana Flare, which is the Candelabra.
Right.
At the time I built this, I just didn't have Candelabras, and so they're not in there. But like, you can totally run those in this deck. It does go further down that combo route. Like this deck, something that's nice-ish about it is that you don't have to do the combo.
Yeah, you could just hard cast like a Shivan.
You can hard cast a Shivan, right? You have 8 X spells for burn, so you have removal. It's not as efficient as a lightning bolt or whatever, but you can totally burn stuff out. Berserk does a pretty good dismember impersonation. Yep. You just cast it on a Serendib, a free, and you take an extra 3, but then it dies at the end of the turn. So, and then you have Ernie. Ernie's actually a really efficient creature to be playing. So you can kind of, even without the Mana Flare, you can kind of get yourself. You can play Blood Moon too. That's another thing you do sometimes in this deck. Is sometimes they just die to Blood Moon, and so you do have ways to play the game that don't require you to have Mana Flare in play. Whereas if you played like 4 Mana Flares and 4 Candelabras, like Candelabra does nothing without the Mana Flare. So you're just more all in on the combo. But yeah,
nice. All right, I love it. That is all I wanted to talk about with this deck, which is super nice. Do you want to talk at all about not Summer Derby? Did you play Summer Derby?
I did not play Summer Derby.
Did you want to talk about, are you going to LobsterCon?
I am going to LobsterCon.
Generally speaking, because I know there's a shark on the line, so I'm not asking for a 75 to 75.
Sure.
But what do you think is going to show up most at this tournament?
I think okay, so there's a shark on the line. People are going to be spiking. I will not be playing Red Green Mana Flare.
Oh, okay. Surprise. Okay.
I think that we're going to see a lot of the deck, a lot of the Lion Burn 12 bolt deck. We're going to see ATOGs, probably a couple flavors like a Lion Tog and a Dib Tog. There might be some like some of the robot-ish decks that are like the Sage deck, the triple Sage deck, which is like Sage of Latinam, Suchi, and Serendib, the Freet. I think we'll in general see a lot of Suchis. I think it's a great creature that a lot of, in Swedish at least, because there's no mana burn. It just is a 4/4 for 4 that any deck can play. That dodges the abyss. It does die to everything, almost everything. But it's just a very efficient threat. I think people are onto that card, so I think we'll see a lot of those. So I think that's kind of going to be the meta, though. Is like you have the deck, you'll have the various aggro decks that play bolts, 10 to 12 bolts, and some lions, dibs, ATOGs, some mix of those cards, and the supporting cast. And then you'll have the decks that are playing more of a mid-range, like a Suchi, maybe like the Sage decks, Suchi and Serendib, and then Sage just because that card's really good. And that'll be like the set. Maybe there's going to be a few, like Twiddle Vault decks. Twiddle Vault's pretty good still. It's harder to play unless you're Danny Friedman to play that in a timed event. So yeah, that's my prediction.
Nice.
And I think somebody playing the deck will win.
You think so? Okay. All right.
Yeah, it's the best deck.
I think I think your assessment on like what decks will show up is absolutely correct. I think that it's not going to be the deck that wins, but one of like the robot variants.
A robot variant.
That's like an 80-20 deck though. Like it's got to have the right shifts.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's going to be a huge tournament, obviously, and there's a lot of good players, and so you can have you have to also get a good variance to win an event of this size. And so deck choice can give you an opportunity to give yourself some positive variance. Or at least I guess that's one strategy is to go higher variance. So you could see somebody choosing a deck that's higher variance and being able to spike the tournament with it, versus somebody going lower variance who's the deck player who's just going to play that and hope that that 60-40 flip comes up in their favor every time. So
I think there's only like maybe 3 people who I could name off the top of my head who can play the deck well for probably what's going to be like 8 or 9 rounds, something like that.
Yeah, isn't it cut to top 8? Is it 2 days?
I'm not worried about making 2 days, so I did not think about that. Like I'm trying to play a real deck, but I don't have illusions of grandeur on this. If I
had to bet, pulling names out, just guessing, I will put my money on this. I will bet on Lucas Glavin playing the deck.
Okay.
To win. That's my bet.
Okay. I'll think of somebody. I think Will's gonna be there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, hold on. On that, while I think about this, for those of us who are not going to make top 8 or even have a winning record, what is our play for stuff to do around the Cambridge area? Because I know you've been to this tournament.
Oh yeah. So I lived in Cambridge for a while.
Even better.
There's actually not a ton of stuff. So the area is Kendall Square. There's some restaurants and cafes that you can go to there. There's there's the near the event venue, near the Dante, there's this little square that it's like a block away that has a bunch of little restaurants and things in it. There's a Vietnamese place in there that does like noodle bowls and banh mi and stuff. That's really good. That's like my go-to for lunch at LobsterCon. There's also, I think, a pizza place nearby, but it's more like a 3-block walk and it's in a different direction. But that's a good spot to go, especially if you're you have a longer break, maybe for whatever reason, and you want to go sit down, have a pizza. And then also in that little square where the Vietnamese noodle place is the bar called State Park, and that's the go-to spot. That's after the event is over.
Okay.
Ranging out a little further, so Massachusetts Avenue is maybe a 5 to 10 minute walk away, and there's a bunch more bars and restaurants up and down that road. Like last year, we ended up at this place called the Mystery of Science, which is like one of the MIT college grad student bars, but also we went there as a bunch of 40-year-old people. So anyways, yeah, there's a bunch to do that's nearby. Not a ton, but there's
Right, right.
there's like enough given that you've got a Magic tournament and everything else
Yeah.
going on.
Like
So,
I'm gonna do the lobster roll. I just need to know. Like
you got to do the
I
lobster
gotta
roll.
eat more than that. Like I
So
gotta
the
eat more
pro
than that.
move
I
is
have to
actually is 1.5 lobster rolls.
Okay.
You find a partner. I'll split with you if you want.
We can make something work there. Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
you get 1.5 lobster rolls, and that's the perfect amount of lobster rolls.
Fair. Okay. All right. That I think that wraps it up. I'll stop taking away most of your Saturday. I'm gonna try and stop hitting record. This is the only part I haven't learned how to do yet. Hold on. Manage recording. Stop recording. Okay, that's actually way easier.